Inca Empire, Children of the Sun, the greatest civilization of the Andes ancient history documentary. Welcome, history enthusiasts, to another extraordinary journey through time with pages from history. Today we venture into the clouds, high among the Andes Mountains, where an empire touched the heavens itself. This is the story of the Inca Empire, Children of the Sun, a civilization that defied nature and created wonders that still mystify us today. Stay with us until the end as we uncover secrets carved in stone and written in the stars. First, origins of empire. In the beginning, when the world was young and darkness covered the earth, the great god Inti sent his children to bring civilization to humanity. From the sacred waters of Lake Titicaca emerged Manco Capac and Mama Oclo, divine siblings destined to found an empire that would rule the known world. They carried a golden staff given by their father, the sun himself, instructed to drive it into the earth until they found the place where it would sink completely. For many moons they wandered through the rugged Andean highlands, searching for the promised land where their empire would flourish for generations. The fertile valley of Cusco welcomed the golden staff, and there in the heart of the mountains, the first stones were laid. The year was approximately 1200 CE when Manco Capac established what would become the navel of the world, the center of Tiwanaku. Humble beginnings marked these early years, as the Inca were merely one tribe among many competing for survival in the harsh mountain environment. Their stone houses clustered together for warmth, thatched roofs keeping out the bitter cold of Andean nights that could freeze water in clay vessels. But the Children of the Sun possessed something their neighbors lacked: divine mandate and unwavering determination to fulfill their cosmic destiny. Through strategic marriages and careful diplomacy, they began absorbing neighboring communities into their growing confederation of loyal subjects bound by reciprocal obligations. The early Inca rulers, the Sapa Incas, established traditions that would define their civilization for centuries to come. Each emperor built upon his predecessor's achievements, expanding territory and refining the systems of governance that made their empire function like a living organism. Pachacuti Inca Yupanqui ascended the throne in 1438 CE and transformed the Inca from regional power to imperial juggernaut. His military genius and administrative innovations laid the foundation for rapid expansion that would soon encompass an area larger than any empire the Americas had ever seen. Under Pachacuti's visionary leadership, Inca armies marched north and south along the spine of the Andes, bringing diverse peoples under imperial control. Warriors dressed in quilted cotton armor and carrying bronze-tipped weapons conquered territories through a combination of military might and diplomatic persuasion that offered protection and prosperity. The conquered were not enslaved, but integrated into the Inca system through the principle of reciprocity that governed all relationships. Local leaders retained their positions if they swore loyalty to the Sapa Inca, and their people gained access to imperial resources, protection, and the sophisticated infrastructure. Pachacuti rebuilt Cusco as a sacred city shaped like a puma, with the fortress of Sacsayhuaman forming the head and the confluence of rivers forming the tail. Massive stone blocks fitted together without mortar created walls so precise that not even a blade could slip between them, demonstrating engineering prowess that baffles modern architects. The empire expanded with breathtaking speed, absorbing cultures from the Pacific coast to the Amazon jungle, from present-day Ecuador to central Chile. Each conquered territory added its knowledge, resources, and labor to the growing imperial system that would become the largest empire in pre-Columbian America, home to perhaps 12 million souls. Second, mountains of gold. High in the clouds, where eagles struggle to fly and the air grows thin, Inca engineers accomplished feats that defy explanation even today. The city of Machu Picchu emerged from living rock, a testament to their mastery over stone and their profound understanding of the mountain environment. Workers using only bronze tools and stone hammers shaped granite blocks weighing many tons into perfect geometric forms. They transported these massive stones up impossible slopes using log rollers, fiber ropes thicker than a man's arm, and the coordinated effort of hundreds of laborers working in synchronized teams. The temples and palaces rose in tiers following the natural contours of mountain ridges, creating the illusion that buildings grew from the earth itself. Trapezoidal doorways and windows, wider at the base than at the top, provided structural stability against the earthquakes that regularly shook the Andes. Agricultural terraces descended the mountainsides in graceful curves, each level retained by precisely fitted stone walls that also served as drainage systems. These andans transformed steep slopes into productive farmland, capturing sunlight and water to grow corn, potatoes, and quinoa at altitudes where most crops would perish. The Inca developed over 3,000 varieties of potato, adapting this humble tuber to grow in diverse microclimates from sea level to high altitude. They invented freeze-drying techniques, leaving potatoes exposed to freezing nights and hot days, then trampling out the moisture to create chuno that could be stored for years. Water was sacred to the Inca, and their hydraulic engineering reflected this reverence through sophisticated canal systems that controlled and distributed this precious resource. Stone channels carried mountain springs through cities and agricultural zones, with fountains providing drinking water at precisely calculated intervals throughout residential areas. The royal roads of the Inca Empire stretched over 40,000 kilometers, connecting coast to mountains to jungle in an integrated network. These highways, paved with stone in important sections, climbed and descended mountain passes that would challenge modern vehicles, maintained by rotating teams of workers fulfilling their MITA labor obligations. Suspension bridges woven from grass fiber spanned river gorges hundreds of meters deep, swaying gently as trains of llamas carried goods between provinces. These bridges required annual rebuilding, a communal effort that brought communities together in cooperative labor that strengthened social bonds while maintaining vital infrastructure. Tambos, or way stations, punctuated the roads at regular intervals, providing shelter and supplies for official travelers and the Chasqui's messengers. These relay runners, stationed every few kilometers, could carry quipu messages from Cusco to the northern frontier in less than a week, maintaining communication across vast distances. In the coastal regions, Inca engineers constructed irrigation systems that brought water from mountain rivers to desert valleys that received no rain. Adobe pyramids rose from the sands, their surfaces painted in brilliant colors that have long since faded under the relentless sun. The fortress of Ollantaytambo demonstrated military engineering at its finest, with massive terraces forming defensive barriers and a temple complex commanding the valley below. Stones quarried from mountains across the valley were somehow transported and lifted into position, including massive blocks still in transit when the Spanish arrived, frozen in time mid-journey. Third, Society of the Sun. The Sapa Inca, divine son of the sun god Inti, ruled as an absolute monarch whose word was law throughout the four quarters of the empire. His person was so sacred that commoners could not look directly upon him, and he traveled in a golden litter carried by the strongest nobles, his feet never touching common ground. The emperor married his full sister to maintain the purity of divine bloodline, though he maintained numerous secondary wives from noble families throughout the empire. His primary wife, the Koya, held considerable power and authority, managing royal households and participating in important religious ceremonies alongside her brother husband. The nobility, descendants of previous Sapa Incas and their numerous offspring, formed an aristocratic class that administered the empire's provinces and commanded its armies. They wore fine vicuña wool garments adorned with gold and silver ornaments, large ear spools that gave them the Spanish nickname Big Ears, and carried themselves with the dignity. Beneath the nobles stood the Caracas, hereditary local leaders who governed their traditional territories under Inca supervision, collecting tribute and organizing labor drafts. These intermediaries maintained their status and some autonomy, while ensuring imperial policies reached the most remote villages where Quechua, the imperial language, gradually replaced local tongues. The common people, the Hatun Runa, formed the backbone of imperial society through their agricultural labor and service in rotating work crews. Families received land allotments based on household size, with additional plots granted for each child, ensuring everyone had sufficient resources to sustain themselves while contributing to communal and imperial stores. Marriage was nearly universal and carefully regulated, with young men and women brought together in annual ceremonies where the state matched partners based on practical considerations. These unions created new households that received land, tools, and assistance from the community to establish themselves as productive members of the social fabric. Women of all classes performed crucial economic roles, weaving the fine textiles that served as currency and status symbols throughout the empire. Their spinning and weaving never ceased, producing the cloth that clothed armies, paid workers, and filled warehouses against times of famine or war. The Akla, chosen women selected for their beauty and skill, lived in special houses where they wove the finest cloth and prepared ritual foods. Some became wives of nobles or priestesses, while others dedicated their lives to serving the sun god in temples where perpetual fires burned. Children began work at young ages, boys helping with herding and agriculture, while girls learned spinning and cooking from their mothers and aunts. Education was informal for commoners, but highly structured for nobility, who attended schools in Cusco learning Quipu, history, and the responsibilities of governance. The elderly were respected and cared for by their families and communities, their wisdom valued even when physical labor became impossible. The sick and disabled received support through the reciprocity system that ensured no one starved or suffered neglect as long as the community prospered. No money existed in this empire. Instead, an elaborate system of reciprocal obligations bound everyone from emperor to farmer in a web of mutual responsibilities. Labor tribute replaced taxation, with every able-bodied person owing a portion of their time to public works, military service, or farming state lands that fed administrators and priests. Fourth, spiritual cosmos. Inti, the sun god, blazed as the supreme deity of the Inca pantheon, his golden disk illuminating the world and bringing life to all creation. The Sapa Inca claimed direct descent from this celestial father, deriving his authority to rule from this divine connection that placed him halfway between heaven and earth. Coricancha, the golden temple in Cusco's heart, housed the most sacred shrine to Inti, its walls literally covered in sheets of beaten gold. The interior garden featured golden replicas of corn plants with leaves and cobs of precious metal, llamas of silver, and even golden hummingbirds suspended on fine wires as offerings. Mama Quilla, the moon goddess and wife of Inti, governed the passage of time and the rhythms of women's bodies and agricultural cycles. Her silver shrine stood beside her husband's golden temple, and priestesses tracked lunar phases to determine the proper timing for planting, harvest, and religious festivals. Pachamama, the Earth Mother, received constant offerings of coca leaves, chicha beer, and llama sacrifices in gratitude for her fertility and protection. Every farmer whispered prayers to her before breaking ground, acknowledging her sovereignty over all that grew from the soil that sustained human life. Alapa, god of thunder and rain, commanded the weather that could bless crops with gentle showers or destroy them with hail and lightning. During droughts, special ceremonies sought his favor, with priests dressed in his colors leading processions while musicians played drums and flutes imitating thunder. The Apu, mountain spirits dwelling in the highest peaks, demanded respect and offerings from all who traversed their domains or farmed their slopes. Each major mountain had its own personality and preferences, and shamans mediated between these powerful beings and the human communities living in their shadows. Capacocha, the most sacred sacrifice, sent perfect children to mountain summits where they were given chicha until they slept, then left to freeze in the thin air. These children became intermediaries between humanity and the divine, their bodies preserved by ice until modern climbers discovered them centuries later. The Temple of the Sun at Machu Picchu aligned perfectly with solstice sunrise, its stone windows framing the golden rays at crucial moments throughout the year. Priests observed celestial movements from this sacred observatory, recording patterns that guided agricultural planning and predicted eclipses that sent populations into panic. Huacas, sacred places and objects scattered throughout the landscape, received constant veneration through offerings of coca, textiles, and prayers for protection or favor. Springs, unusual rock formations, caves, and ancient ruins all possessed spiritual power that demanded acknowledgement and respect from those who encountered them. The Inca mummified their dead, especially royalty, whose bodies sat enthroned in palaces where they continued to own property and participate in ceremonies through mediums. These ancestral mummies attended festivals, received offerings, and even visited each other, carried through streets in elaborate processions that honored their continued presence among the living. Ayahuasca and other sacred plants allowed priests and shamans to journey into spiritual realms where they communed with gods and ancestors. These visions guided important decisions, revealed hidden knowledge, and maintained the connection between the visible world and the supernatural forces that truly controlled human destiny. Fifth, Empire's Twilight. In 1532, strangers appeared on the northern coast, pale men with beards and strange garments who rode giant animals that seemed half deer, half llama. Francisco Pizarro and his small band of Spanish conquistadors arrived seeking gold, finding instead an empire in crisis following a devastating civil war between rival claimants. Atahualpa and Huáscar, sons of the deceased Sapa Inca Huayna Capac, had fought a brutal succession war that divided the empire and decimated its leadership. Atahualpa emerged victorious, capturing his brother and executing nobles loyal to him, weakening the political structure just as the Spanish sought to exploit these divisions. The Spanish numbered fewer than 200 men, but they brought advantages the Inca could not match: steel weapons, firearms, horses, and European diseases. Their armor turned aside Inca weapons, their cavalry trampled through infantry formations, and their guns and crossbows killed from distances that made retaliation impossible. Smallpox arrived before the conquistadors, carried by coastal traders who contracted the disease from earlier Spanish expeditions, spreading death through populations with no immunity. This invisible enemy killed millions, including Huayna Capac himself, triggering the succession crisis that Pizarro would exploit with Machiavellian cunning. At Cajamarca, the Spanish invited Atahualpa to a meeting, then sprang their trap when the emperor arrived with several thousand unarmed attendants. Cavalry and cannon fire massacred thousands in minutes, and the conquistadors captured the Sapa Inca, holding him for ransom that would become legendary for its audacity. Atahualpa ordered his people to fill a room with gold and two with silver, treasure stripped from temples and palaces throughout the empire. The ransom accumulated slowly. Precious objects melted into ingots that destroyed irreplaceable artwork, but the Spanish executed the emperor anyway, ending the Inca dynasty despite their promises of release. The Spanish installed Manco Inca as a puppet ruler, but he soon recognized their true intentions and fled to Vilcabamba, establishing a resistance state. From mountain strongholds, the Inca fought a guerrilla war for nearly 40 years, maintaining their culture and religious practices while Spanish colonizers consolidated control over conquered territories. Tupac Amaru, the last Sapa Inca, was captured and executed in Cusco's main plaza in 1572, ending independent Inca rule forever. The Spanish forced thousands to watch as the emperor's head was displayed, a brutal message that the old order had ended and a new colonial reality had begun. Spanish missionaries destroyed temples and built churches over sacred sites, forcing conversion while suppressing traditional religious practices they condemned as devil worship. Yet the Inca faith survived underground, blending with Catholicism in a syncretism that preserved ancient beliefs beneath a Christian veneer that fooled colonial authorities. Today, millions of Andean people carry Inca blood and maintain traditions that stretch back centuries before the Spanish arrived. They speak Quechua, weave traditional patterns, and honor Pachamama alongside Catholic saints, demonstrating the resilience of culture that conquers could destroy politically but never completely erase. The children of the sun left behind stone monuments that will outlast any modern construction, testimony to human ingenuity and determination. Their legacy survives in terraced fields still producing crops, in roads still guiding travelers, and in the spirits of people who remember when their ancestors touched the heavens and called themselves children of Inti, the eternal sun. The Inca Empire stands as a testament to what humanity can achieve when vision, organization, and determination unite under a common purpose. From their divine origins in Lake Titicaca to their tragic encounter with Spanish conquistadors, the children of the sun created a civilization that harmonized with nature while building wonders that challenge our understanding even today. Their agricultural innovations, architectural marvels, and sophisticated social systems demonstrate genius that transcends time and culture. If this journey through Inca history has enlightened and inspired you, please support Pages from History by liking this video, sharing your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribing to join us on future explorations. Your engagement helps us continue bringing these remarkable stories to life. Until next time, history enthusiasts, may the sun light your path as it did for the children of the sun.